Welcome to the Carnivore Cast, the podcast focused on the carnivore diet and lifestyle, with practical advice from successful carnivores, citizen scientists, and top researchers. I'm your host, Scott Meslinski, and I'm here to speak with experts and experienced carnivores to get answers to your biggest and meatiest questions while helping you live your best life as a carnivore. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Chris Irvin, the Ketologist on Instagram, is the education manager of Perfect Keto, a keto food company that makes the keto lifestyle easier and more effective with products like collagen, keto bars, MCT oil powder, and more. Chris is also the co-host of the Keto Answers podcast with Dr. Anthony Gustin, which I love, that breaks down complex keto topics such as fasting, weight loss, carnivore, hormones, and much more. Chris and Dr. Anthony are also have launched a book that's off to a great success called Keto Answers. And Chris was on the show previously because he's also the co-author of the Carnivore Keto Cut program for helping people achieve various health goals with a carnivore keto diet. There we talked about a lot of things around body composition goals and more around Chris's personal eating, sleeping, fasting, exercise routine. So go check that one out if you haven't. But super psyched to have Chris back on the show today to talk more about Keto Answers and more. So welcome back, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be on. This has been one of my favorite podcasts to come on, so I'm excited about it.
Oh, thank you. Really appreciate that. And so I'd just love to start with, you've had some major life changes since we last spoke. So how has life been since joining Perfect Keto, and why'd you decide to join the team?
Yeah, so it's been awesome. I moved out to Austin, Texas, which is where the Perfect Keto headquarters is. I moved out here coming up on a year now almost. And it's been great because I've wanted to be out here for a while. You know, KetoCon and Paleo FX has been out in Austin for the last 3-4 years. And every time I come to the city, I love it. The barbecue's great. So there's always good reason to be here. And so, yeah, it's been awesome coming here, and working for Perfect Keto has been a dream so far. Coming into an office where everybody has like minds and is working really hard towards helping people has been really cool. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I did join the team. To kind of answer your second question there is, I was friends with Dr. Gustin for a while before working for Perfect Keto, and I knew that he was a guy who cared a lot about helping people. He's a lot different than a lot of other CEOs in the sense that it's not about the bottom line for him. It's about how many people he can impact and help improve their health. And, he does that through making really high quality products, and his attention to quality with the products he makes is, I haven't seen anybody else have that type of attention. And I knew that, if I was going to work for a company in the industry, it was going to be somebody like that. So it's pretty much a no-brainer for me to get to come and work for him. And, I've nothing but good things to say so far. So I'm loving it.
That's awesome. And from the outside in, I can tell that about Perfect Keto. That's really a genuine company, and that Dr. Gustin has such a true integrity with his mission of just making keto food more accessible to people. He did, I think, an Instagram post about how every time he travels, he gets fired up because he sees all the junk products that people have to deal with, and it just motivates him so much to try to make these types of really high quality, high integrity ingredient keto products accessible to more people. And it's so clear from the way you very carefully and diligently R&D products before launching them. And I think he's talked about how, you spent 3 years looking for a coffee product and never got satisfied with the quality, that you're really not chasing money. You're trying to create the highest quality product to help people. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that, when I first heard about it and he first started telling me the way that this company operates, I almost thought that it was too good to be true. I was like, there's no way that there's any CEO out there that cares more about, just because, you meet so many people and what they care most about is making money and stuff. And for him, the numbers that he keeps track of is how many people's lives he can improve through helping them with their diet. And I think it's really cool also, to be a keto company that is recommending diet first. It's not about pushing products or anything like that. It's about, we want you following keto and we think these products can help you with that. So I think that message has been pretty strong and hopefully it's resonating very well with people.
Yeah. And on that point, I know you are the education manager for Perfect Keto, and a lot of what Perfect Keto does, which is awesome, in addition to providing these products, is providing resources on a ketogenic diet. So you can talk about how that ties in with your work and the Keto Answers podcast and why you decided to make a book.
Yeah. So when I first started coming on, my role has kind of shifted as I've been here. So when I first came on, one of my big priorities was just educating the people that work at Perfect Keto. So, as our team has grown over the last few years, we get a lot more people who are, experts in certain areas of their job, but maybe don't know the most about Perfect Keto, or they don't know the most about the ketogenic diet, and they don't know the most about our products. So, I spent my first few months here just building out an internal education database to let everybody know, this is what we stand for, this is keto, and this is what our products are and what they do and the science behind them. So that was the first few months of working here. And then after that, it was, turning more towards external facing education and how do we help educate our customer more so that we can not only help them start keto, but help them stay keto, which was a big one. And that's kind of where the Keto Answers book came from is between my Instagram and Dr. Gustin's Instagram and the Perfect Keto social media platforms, we get so many questions on a day-to-day basis. And we know how hard it is for people to find the correct information out there because of the way that people are using clickbait articles and stuff to just, put a question out that they know people are asking and then draw you to their site. And then you have to decide if this is a credible answer or not. And, we just hated that. And we wanted there to be one resource that would have every answer that somebody has about a keto diet. And that's kind of how the Keto Answers book started is we said the book contains 268 questions about the keto diet. And each question has a short answer and then a long answer that's, everything's supported by research and experiences that we've had, working one-on-one with people and working with ourselves through self-experimentation. So, it's everything wrapped up into one. We really want somebody to not to have to scour Google to find their answer. We want them to be able to just have this resource so they can get every question answered. So that's kind of been the purpose behind it. And so far the feedback we're getting is that it's doing its job. So we're really excited to hear that.
That's awesome. And I imagine this isn't just for beginners, just for people who've been doing keto for some time or people who are on a ketogenic or carnivore diet for a really long time. There's probably a mix. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. So the way that the book is written is that you can read it from front to back, and it's written in a Q&A format where it's like, here's a question and then here's the answer. And how we wrote it was we met with people who were at different stages of their keto journey. So we met with people who are beginners, intermediates, and then people who are more advanced keto dieters. And we kind of felt out the natural progression of like, if you're a beginner and you have this question, and you get it answered, what's the next logical question that you have from there? And then we kind of progress that all the way up into the advanced person of like, okay, when you know all of this stuff, then what is your question? So the way that the book is written is that you can read it from front to back and learn everything that you need to know, but you can also use it as an encyclopedia where you can flip to the back of the book, find your question, and then go look up, the answer to it. And, the first couple chapters of the book may be a little bit kind of rudimentary for somebody who is more advanced. But I also think that we have a little bit of a unique perspective on some topics that I think even an expert may benefit from hearing. But then as you really get into the book, there's a lot of stuff about like specific things like the different types of ketogenic diets, supplements as they relate to keto. There's a chapter dedicated to women. And then there's a chapter dedicated towards self-experimentation and tracking and things like that. So I think that there's a lot of good stuff no matter where you're at in your keto journey.
Very cool. That's great. And sounds like it's a book that you can share with others too. If you're with family or friends and certain people are at different stages, or, you just have friends over and they want to ask you about the diet. If that's your idea of a fun social activity. But sometimes that happens. It's a good book to have on the shelf. And Chris, when we last spoke, I know you're using kind of a keto and carnivore approach. and you mainly saw carnivore as advantageous for body composition goals. I'm curious how your view of carnivore has evolved, both for yourself and for others, since we last spoke about a year ago.
Yeah, great question. So, just like you mentioned, when I first heard about carnivore, and I probably talked about this in the first episode, is that, I didn't really think much about it. I thought that it was kind of crazy. I thought there was no way that this was a diet that was, actually going to be beneficial or anything like that. And then after I started seeing some more of like the anecdotal evidence, I tried it myself, and kind of just like when I was first introduced to keto, I really saw it as like a body composition thing. And I noticed, really great improvements in my personal body composition, which is why we ended up coming out with that program last year. But since then, I've really started diving in, and from hearing more people talk about their experiences and looking at the research, I started looking at, keto for more things like autoimmunity, and, improving your gut health. And, those are things that I didn't even consider before. And now I think that keto can help with so many different conditions. I think autoimmunity is the big one, which I also kind of include, anxiety and depression and other mental health disorders in that same category with autoimmunity. I think that it can be so beneficial for that. And I think one of the best reasons why this happens is because, one of the ways you can look at carnivores, it's almost like an intense elimination diet. A lot of these autoimmune conditions, we know that impaired gut health is a very big contributor to it. And when you're eating an all meat diet, you're cutting out all these different foods that might be triggering bad reactions in your gut, and you can kind of restore your gut health. So I think that that's one phase of why carnivore is so beneficial. But then the other side of the coin is that, I didn't realize until the last year when looking at the research how, animal meat, if we get it properly sourced, it is the most nutrient dense food that we can get on the planet. And we can get all of the vitamins and minerals that we need from a carnivore diet if we do it right, especially if you're incorporating organ meat and stuff like that. So, I'm back on carnivore now. I kind of cycle it in periodically. I go, 4-6 weeks at a time. I'm on week 3 of getting back into it now. But, since the last time we spoke, I pretty much stick to carnivore, 90% of the time. Even when I'm not, 100% carnivore, I'm still eating a 90% meat-based diet with the occasional, incorporating vegetables and things like that. But I have not found a way of eating that makes me feel better than I do when I'm on carnivore. So, my biggest thing is I just hope that we have more research that comes out to help push this forward, because I think there's so many people out there that can benefit from it. When you hear about all these people suffering from different autoimmunity things, arthritis, stuff like that, seems to be a really good answer for those conditions. So I hope that we can get more research out there to help these people.
Yeah, I really like that. And it's super interesting to see how your view has evolved. And I respect especially that, you're skeptical of it at first, especially for some of the proclaimed benefits of a carnivore diet, but you found works well for you, and interesting to see that you've dug into it helping others. And, part of why I started this podcast is just to highlight some of the case studies of people who have overcome certain conditions, because like you say, there just isn't research to support this yet. And I'm a huge fan of self-experimentation, and hopefully what I'm doing is just encouraging people to question whether carnivore diet might be worth the self-experiment. Not saying they have to change if they found something that works for them, but just open their minds a little bit and hopefully get them to say, hey, I'm suffering from this autoimmune condition, be it arthritis or GERD or IBS or whatever. I heard someone on the podcast, they had a complete life change by trying this for 60 days. So why don't I give it a shot? Yeah.
And I totally agree. I think the first time that I really considered it for all these different cases was when I heard Jordan Peterson talk about it. It's been a long time ago that he was on Joe Rogan, and he brought up how much it helped him with his anxiety and depression, and how much it helped his daughter Michaela with her autoimmunity, which she had one of the most severe cases of autoimmunity that I've heard of. And you start hearing the results that these people are seeing on this, and now you hear it more and more every day, and that's like, this isn't just random chance. There's something going on here, and there's so much more to this diet than just the fact that you're cutting out foods and eating meat. I mean, we're talking about changes that medication has not been able to solve, and people who have been dealing with problems for years are finally finding relief in this diet. And I think that that's incredible. And just like how appalled I was when I saw the therapeutic potential of a ketogenic diet, I'm probably 2 times as shocked seeing it with a carnivore diet. It's just crazy. So It's overwhelming, but it's very exciting.
Yeah. That's awesome. And also one thing I think about with regards to, what will help the ketogenic diet and carnivore diet spread and help more people. I think it's a lot of things. One is kind of this bottoms up grassroots movement of people finding change in their own lives and telling others. Another is educational content, like you're producing at Perfect Keto, which I think is excellent and very necessary, sort of how-tos and answers to common questions. Another is research, which you're absolutely right. We need more of that. And then kind of the last pillar, maybe the fourth pillar I think about is kind of the lifestyle branding, and something I think a lot of diets have done well. And if I think about kind of fitness influencers on YouTube or Instagram, they create this kind of lifestyle community that people want to buy into. How do you think about keto and carnivore doing that more effectively? Because I think like the people who have started to do that, like Goody Beats with his YouTube channel and some other keto and carnivore people, I think that's a really important part of the puzzle. But curious how you think about that and making keto and carnivore a lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think the biggest component of it, especially with carnivore, because I see carnivore following a very similar trend that keto had to follow to get the exposure that it's gotten to today. I think that the first thing you have to do is show that it's safe, right? So everybody is, against meat and they think that it's bad. And if you're either in the camp of you think it's bad for your health or you think it's bad for the environment. And once you can kind of get that across that that's not the case, I think then you can open it up to being like, okay, maybe this is something I can try for myself. Yeah. And then once people are able to try it for themselves and they can see what's happening and the changes that happens in their body, I think that opens up the conversation to start talking about this as a lifestyle. But one of the big things that I think it needs to help push it forward, and it was easier for this to happen in the keto space than I think it may be for the carnivore space, but I think industry is very important because industry is what allows these things to take off. I mean, when I first started hearing about keto, 4 or 5 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of markets or products on the market. There wasn't many companies that were, marketing their products as being keto or even marketing their companies as being keto. And once this happened, there's obviously cons to this because you get a lot of people that try to take advantage of this movement and they try to, trick people into buying their products by using these buzzwords like keto and carnivore. But when you get companies that are doing it well, I mean, you're talking about jobs being able to be created from it, right? So people go work, like right now, people can go work in the keto industry. You can be an influencer that can be doing a good job helping promote the lifestyle to people and making a career out of it. You can go work for a keto company doing anything from, supply chain to R&D to marketing, social media, any of that stuff. And so I think that's kind of the biggest thing is like adopting I think the industry plays such a big role. Like in a perfect world, you would have a great marriage between, like research and academics and industry, and you would have them kind of play together and, help each other out. Unfortunately, there's always going to be people that try to take advantage of that relationship. But I hope that, you already see some great companies doing that. I know, like Ancestral Supplements has come out and brought like, organ meat capsules, which is solving a huge problem because I think you need organ meat on keto and, people don't want to eat organ meat. So like that solves a big problem. And I think when you have companies like that coming in and solving these problems, that helps allow this to turn into more of a lifestyle. So I think the industry just plays such an important role if it's done the right way.
Yeah, that's a great point. And a lot of people almost view it as a negative and say, oh, this is a sign that keto's a fad. All these companies are popping up. There are all these products. But I really like that other spin on it where the industry helps propel it forward. And that's so true if I think about other fields, and I'm opening a can of worms by saying this, I know, but like healthcare. But healthcare research has advanced for better or worse, and in some ways worse, in some ways better, because of pharmaceutical companies being able to fund studies for part of it. I think, without any industry and without any profit making devices or entities, you're absolutely right. It's hard for these things to gain scale and gain traction.
Yeah, you're so right. And, when it comes to research, unfortunately, people aren't going to do research if there's not money to be made. That's the unfortunate truth of it. And, one of the nice things that we've seen about keto is that like a lot of keto companies are willing to fund research because they know that, if we get more research, if we believe in this diet and we get more research out on this diet, then more people are going to come to this diet, and that's going to be, beneficial for the company. So it incentivizes people to do that. I mean, you have a lot of companies out there like, I think Keto Mojo has like a nonprofit that they've been working on that I think, they're putting money back into keto research. I know I talked to Travis Christofferson the other day, who's the author of Tripping Over the Truth, which talks about like keto for cancer. And he has his own, foundation for cancer, research and stuff like that. So it's like having the industry there is where the money can come from to support these studies. And when you don't have that, the research doesn't happen. And if you look at it, keto research died for a long period of time because there was no money to be made in a diet and in fasting and stuff like that, right? Like, nobody's making money on fasting. Nobody's making money on keto. So we're not going to do research on it. And you can either fight that and say that, well, you hope that people do research for the better good because we need to help people, or you can lean into that and say, well, if we believe that this diet is good, let's find a way to fund more research so we can help more people. And I think that's what the industry can provide, which, as we mentioned earlier, of course, that can be done the wrong way. And you can have a lot of companies who are going in and maybe trying to falsify data to make a product look better or something like that. There's always going to be people that do it the wrong way. But if you get the people that are doing it the right way, I think you can make a really big impact.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a great point. I think absolutely industry needs to meet research for things to really take off. And to that point, where do you think this is all kind of going with the keto and carnivore sort of movements and education and reaching scale? It's still, a small percentage of people who practice these diets, but it's been a top Google trend, if that's any marker of success, for some years now. And it seems like we're kind of starting to hit an inflection point, but curious where you think it's going and what you're optimistic about.
Yeah, that's a great question. And, to preface this too, there's going to be a really good book, another book coming out, and in October from Travis Christofferson that's called Curable, that is actually going to talk about a lot of these things. Like I said, I just got to see him present here in Austin, last week, and he told me a little bit about this. But I think the big place that this needs to go is, the healthcare industry has to get involved to help take this off, or to help all of this take off. So I think that that's a big thing. And unfortunately, I think the pharmaceutical companies are going to play a big role in this too. But I am actually optimistic about that because I think that one of the things that I've always been really excited about with exogenous ketones is that I think exogenous ketones are something that could turn into a pharmaceutical at some point. Maybe it's ketone esters, maybe it's just exogenous ketones, but this is something that can that people will find monetary value in, which could progress this forward. It could lead to being a thing that, if you have a condition, you can actually go to the doctor and get prescribed these things. And you can, you would have healthcare that would take care of them, especially when you start talking about things like ketone esters that have a much higher price point. That's, I think, where things need to go to reach more people. We have to have our doctors educated on this stuff. We have to have the people who are ultimately diagnosing the sick and trying to help the people who are dealing with all the chronic conditions that we're facing today. We have to have those people recommending these practices that have been shown to be so beneficial. And so, which kind of leads into another thing that I think I'm optimistic about, but I think needs to really be focused on, is just improving our education at the level of like medical schools and stuff. I mean, medical schools do not have to, these doctors don't have to take nutrition classes. And if they do, they're nutrition classes that are very outdated in the information that they're presenting. So I think that's another thing that needs to be really updated for this to kind of take hold. But I am optimistic for it because I think that you can't argue with the people who are reporting the successes that they're seeing on this stuff. When you hear about people, having their lives changed by these diets and going from, just regaining control of their health in a way that they couldn't before. You can't argue with that stuff. So I think that makes me optimistic that we will see these things in the future. It's just going to come down to how much fight we're going to have from, things like the pharmaceutical industry, which are going to want to maybe prevent, if a diet can replace a drug, people aren't going to be very excited about that. So, that's going to be something we're going to have to deal with, but I'm optimistic.
Yeah, me too. I think that's a great perspective, and you have some unique insights there around things like getting into medical schools and updating the research and reaching more people, and the power of some of these things like ketone esters to really prove out some of the acute effects in an isolated way of ketones. That's really powerful. And what's your mission going forward, Chris? What you're focused on, both at Perfect Keto and beyond, and where can people find your work and find out more about you?
Yeah. So, my mission is still, every year I always think that everybody, a new year rolls around. I think, man, everybody must know about keto by now. And then I'll go talk to family and be like, nope, there's still a bunch of people that don't know about it. So, education and easy education that people can actually understand is still a main goal of mine. I think that when you know the why, I think that it becomes more effective. And one of my concerns with keto and stuff is that it's becoming such a cliche that keto and low carb are good for your health that we are forgetting the why. And like I said, I think when you forget the why, then it loses its power. So the education to me is really important for people to remember why they're doing this and remember the power of these diets and what it's doing for their health. So I'm still on a mission to try to reach more people and educate more people and make this diet more accessible. And, when it comes to like my role at Perfect Keto, you mentioned earlier how Dr. Gustin, he actually just came back from traveling, and he came back to the office all fired up because he was at the airport looking at the options people had, and he was just pissed that people are still suffering and not able to have good food choices when they're, out traveling or going to the grocery store and stuff. So I think there's still a lot of problems that I want to solve in this keto space. And that's why I'm with Perfect Keto, because they're so focused on solving those things. So I think that in the short term, that's going to be a really big focus for me. And then long term, I think one thing that I'm really starting to look at more is mental health. I'm very big on that right now. I think it's the next big thing that, we start restoring our metabolism and everything, and that's great, but a lot of people are still broken in the mental health department. And I think, I can see myself in the future getting into more of that as I keep diving into the research and looking at, some of the novel strategies that are coming out with like psychedelic therapies and all of that interesting stuff. So, that's kind of where I could see myself in the future. But for right now, there's a lot of work to be done on keto.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're doing great work. And Chris, just so I include in the show notes and on carnivorecast.com in the post, where can people find you and what are the best resources to see what you're up to?
Yeah, so the best social media channel for me, the one that I respond to the most, is Instagram. So they can find me at the Ketologist. And then also I just started working on over the last month my YouTube channel. So I'm going to be having a lot more videos coming out there, and that's also at the Ketologist. And then for anybody who's interested in checking out the Keto Answers book that came out this week, that you can find that on Amazon. Right now it is available in Kindle and paperback format. You can search Keto Answers and it'll pop up. It'll be the book that has 5 eggs on the cover. Can't miss it. Those are the best spots.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Chris. It's always a pleasure to chat with you and really appreciate the time and think folks will get a lot out of this.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Yep. Have a good one.
Yep. You too.
If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Carnivore Cast. If you enjoyed this episode, please review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And share it with a friend. What questions would you like answered? Or who would you like to hear from in the carnivore research community? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CarnivoreCast, or go to carnivorecast.com. You can also email me at info@carnivorecast.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it carnivore.